Hello, everyone. Thanks for showing up today. I'm going to see if I can get this to focus a little bit better, since it's obviously not focused well at all right now. Give it something besides white to focus on. Huh. That's not usual. Turn it off. Turn the light back on. Sorry, this is like the first part of the recording for people. There we go. Now it's nicely in focus. All right. So for those who don't know, I am the Honorable Lord Ian the Green, and I will be working on showing how to write my version of Insular Majuscule. This is based off of Mark Drogan's Insular Majuscule, but it has certainly become mine hand of it. And it is also influenced by looking at the Book of Durrow, and some other more very famous Insular Majuscules. Now, for me, when I write flat, Insular Majuscule is done. Pardon me. Let's start with that. Insular Majuscule is done at a flat angle. So your angle is flat, 0. It can be done up to about 20 degrees, not 30, definitely not 45. I have a preference for it being flat. So when I am writing on a slanted board, I can sit in front of the slanted board and do this flat. When I write on a flat surface, I do it 90 degrees. And so it ends up looking a bit like this. And that's probably going to be really hard for y'all to watch. So I'm going to see if I can flip this a little bit. Of course. The other day, I was able to make it switch. And now all of a sudden I can't figure out how to use my own tools. Well, I guess I'll have to suffer and do it the other way so y'all can read it. No big deal. All right. So Insular Majuscule is a majuscule script, just like it sounds, and that means that there is not really a capital A or a minuscule A. There is really a form of the A, and they're all theoretically majuscules or all capitals, depending on who you want to have that discussion with. So get that out of the way. We will go ahead and start with the letter A, and the Insular Majuscule script is that Book of Kells Irish bar kind of a script that people are used to seeing. It is so with flat. Go that in. Come over here. With an A, we start off kind of with a sideways U almost. Okay. Now that people will say, but that's a C. Well, okay, it is a C, but now let's do it again. And now it becomes an A. If you want, you can create some end pieces there. I wouldn't call them serifs. If somebody else has an idea, if they actually are supposed to be called serifs, let me know. But really, it's just kind of like 2 C's in a row. And I pick up my pen a lot for this. Now, what is the X height on this? And I am making this X height smaller than it's supposed to be. 3 to 5 is my memory. For me, on average, I really like my nib. I like 4 nib widths. So those A's are much smaller than what they're supposed to be. It's an open, very round script. Okay. And it
Do the
shouldn't be
tips of
milk.
that first C, do they actually come down a little bit to give you kind of the roundness of the?
It's supposed to be more
circle
this
part?
than that.
Yeah.
I screwed that up. Does that answer
No,
your
I guess-
question?
No, I guess what I mean is, well, I guess it kind of does. So on the right half of the C, the two tails do curve inwards.
Yes.
And I guess that was my question is so do you go, because you're holding the pen flat, does it actually go all the way to horizontal and then come back down for a half nib width or something like that? Or
Let's see how I
So-
tend to do this.
okay.
I tend to come back up and touch it up.
Okay.
That's what I tend to do. I think if I was using a quill pen, I might be tempted to do a little bit of a push at the beginning and a little bit of a push at the end. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay. So.
Yeah, what
So,
I was
and
trying
then-
to puzzle out is how to get that the left half of the A to actually look not just like a semicircle on the left half of the right piece of the A, if that makes sense.
I understand what you're saying. And what I want to tell you is, but it's supposed to look like that. Unless I'm misunderstanding what you're saying.
I guess maybe let me try to explain a bit more. So if you look at that A you just drew,
Mm-hmm.
the right half of the A, so the second arc you drew,
Mm-hmm.
it's taller than the left half to kind of give you that to make it distinct from the left half. Whereas, so if you can imagine, if you drew it, say from, this is going to exaggerate, if you drew your arc from like 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, that would give you that kind of curvy down bit of the left. Yeah. So like on the one you just did, the left arc does come down a bit to kind of give you that belly on the left side that then looks more A-like than, because if you just did it as a semicircle left followed by a second semicircle, it would, the two tops align and it just looks flat, if that makes sense.
It's not supposed to look flat. It's bumpy.
Right, that's what I mean, and that's what I was trying to figure out between what the first ones you were drawing were and kind of this last one. The last one makes sense to me, if that makes sense.
Yay.
Yeah,
And again,
Yeah, thanks.
I'm at a disadvantage myself right now because I can't hold this the way I want to, and that's my issue. So if you're starting to see, if you're seeing something, I will do my best to correct or make it right. It doesn't, and so I appreciate it. What I can do, actually, that looks straight to you guys, doesn't it? Like that's normal.
Yes.
Haha. So now, that's still a little bit up, isn't it? But that's how I write my A's. And I'm still not getting it to the full height that's supposed to be because I'm not using guidelines. I will fix that somehow. I should have had this ready ahead of time. I do apologize. I didn't. So create that baseline. Create that waistline. And that'll help a lot. Not a script that I write very much anymore. It used to be my favorite script. All right, so the B is above the waistline. And it does have a nice beak serif on it. There we go. And that should look familiar. But instead of being a curve, we just go straight. pull it down, and start to curve like a C. I like to start just below the next stroke to make this come around and become a B. I like to start it just below the baseline. Some people do it at the baseline. I'm not going to, neither is better, neither is wrong. And then you want to kind of land in it. And I missed. And it looks like it's leaning forward because I didn't bring this out far enough. You want to make sure that this comes out far enough. There we go. How high up does the stem go? It, in my opinion, shouldn't be shorter than this unless you have an artistic reason for it to be. But you can go much higher. But if you go much higher, don't do that. You still want to keep this part reasonable. See the difference? So, and I've seen bees that short. I've seen bees that tall. What matters is keeping this pretty without getting to this. So this becomes almost decoration at some point. So the C, we've kind of already drawn it. Does that make sense? Pretty straightforward. It's the first half of the A. Now, there is another way to do this instead of pulling straight down. Those people who took the Carolingian capitals class might recognize this and then twist the pen. And you can just do a pen twist here. And that's the other way of doing it. Also, I forgot to mention on the B, it doesn't have to be so far up or so far over. I'm going to go do a real quick one again. If you're going to, sorry. It really can be a bit more straight up, and then you can go ahead and have that stick out a little bit further. It doesn't have to have this, 45, 30-degree angle, although it can. So the angle here is kind of personal choice, but whatever you choose, you need to be consistent with. Let me draw on the next line. Any questions about what we've seen so far? So the D can be a lot of fun. You have some definite choices and options with the D. There's two Ds that are classic. There's the D that has a very flat stem on it and comes over and you do that. And then there's the very upright stem. And so this little part of it, you get to see you come up, come down, and that's the serif. Bring it over, come down, and you get a D. If you were doing this at more than a flat angle, this becomes thicker, and that's fine. And it may be a reason to choose to go thick, to not go with a flat angle. And it does not have to be perfectly flat. It really can angle, but if you do that, don't go below the line. So you can actually come up and come around. And there are reasons to do that, but typically speaking, flat is a better choice. And that is very ugly. I know people who prefer to draw this by doing this part first and then draw that in. I will never tell you that's wrong. I will tell you that's not my preferred way. In the end, remember, adductus is directions, but you're the person that's drawing the script. You can change that and do it the way that works best for you, and that's okay. The other D is a C with a nice upright stem. And I actually draw that C first. Nice beak serif, pull it straight down. I just kind of want to brush by, barely touch. And then down here, I want to come out to create a foot. And I've exaggerated that. It doesn't need to be that pointed. It really can just be something as simple as a half a nib width and then fill in that triangle foot. And so you end up with a triangle down here and, foot and a triangle beak serif up here. And in some of the scripts for Unshul, it will be closed, and in other ones, it'll be open. But the bottom one connects. And so I'll extend that one out, and then this one will stay here. And I pull that down, and it misses the first one, but it gets the bottom one. And that's another way to do it. Both are valid. Now, I missed by a lot. And you can actually, instead of putting that in there, go ahead and bring it over instead of having it come down. All good choices, all perfectly valid and appropriate. Extend that out. Won't be pretty, but it'll be extended out. And again, anybody thinking, hey, Ian, you should have done this ahead of time, I completely agree with you. I apologize. Okay, so the E, like almost all other E's, is a C with another line going through it. You have a couple of choices with this. You get your C, and there are people who say go to the middle, and then you get a wonderful little tick thing down here. I honestly think it's just a pen manipulation, and you're twisting your pen. But whatever, I'm not going to have an argument over it. I'm just saying there's more than one way to do this. Have fun with it. Should it be pointing down like that? It can. It really is supposed to be straight instead of down. The other way, and people like to have these arguments and discussions, is that it should touch there, and then you get that. And the answer really is pick one, whether it stays in the middle or if it's going to touch. They're both valid. You'll see it depending on which manuscript you're looking at. You'll see either one. The fun thing is that, like with this D, this E, you can play with them. Let's say I've gotten to the end of a line, and if I put another word in here, it's not going to be, I'm not going to be able to get the whole line. Well, I can take this, extend it, and put in dots, and they did that. Perfectly valid. So you can have a little bit more fun playing with it. And the D, you will occasionally see comes up, and maybe there's a 4-point, ooh, that was fun. Kind of a, you know, for lack of a better term, clover, 4-leaf clover kind of thing that comes, that's up here at the top of it. And that happens. So there's some things you can do with this script that are just plain fun. Not that way.
That squiggle at the end of the last E you did, is that done with the corner of your nib, or is that done with the nib flat?
I did it with the corner of my nib. And if you do, and if you have a quill pen, that'll work. There are metal pens where that won't work, but it should be easy enough on most pens that you just you have this ink that pulls out here, and you go flat until you want to start doing the up and down, and then you just get up on your corner and go up and down. It's going to depend on your ink and the pen, but most nibs should be able to pull this off. Quill pens pull it off super easy.
Got it. Thanks.
Thanks for asking. Trying to talk with a pen in my mouth doesn't work so well. F and K are a lot the same. Wow, those go together. All right, so I'll do the F first, and then I'll do the K. F is a descender. Make sure you get your beak serif on it. Pull it straight down. Oops, not curved, straight down, and bring the foot back this way. Now the F actually can go above the waistline, just a little bit, or just touch, your choice. And then the cross for the F is the baseline. That's where it goes. That's where it belongs. It does not go up any higher. It follows the baseline. So, beak serif, straight, not curved. Straight down, foot. And if you want, you can do this and then that, but really, there you go. And the cross. So, and the problem that most people have with this is wrapping their modern head and modern way of thinking about the cross thing being down here. When I first started doing this script, I would take 2 parts, 2 strokes to get the F. And honestly, I do think that's prettier. There are questions about, well, how far out should this go? Should I bring it in? And with everything that you do, with every script you do, you can make your own modifications. but this is supposed to be take up the space of what an X or an O would take up, and then have a descender. So I said F and K are a lot the same. Well, they really are. So in most scripts, the letter K has an ascender. In this script, the letter K has a descender. This curve here stays below the waistline. And then it comes down here and comes out. And that is an uncial K. And the only reason that our modern brain has a problem with it is, well, that is supposed to be there. Well, no, it's not. It's supposed to be where it is, but our modern brains don't like that. Now, there's another way you can do that. Instead of making it so many strokes, get your beak serif, get your foot, come up here, and then pull down here, and then do that. Which way was it done? I don't know. Do what works for you. I think that one's a little bit easier. But there are, you want to avoid, if you do that, you want to avoid what I call bouncing your nib or bouncing the stroke. There's this tendency to do this, and that's not the same. You come in and then just quickly come out. So you still need to have it nice and controlled. Bring it in, control it, and then come out nice and deliberate and bring that down. And so that turns it into fewer strokes, but whatever works best for you. And if you notice that your foot's not good, that's okay, you can fix it. So F and K share a lot of similarities. All right, the G. Everybody loves the G. The G is fun. I'm going to turn this because I have a little bit easier time when I do G's this way. That. There we go. I love having a camera that'll spin for me. So I like to come up on my corner to get that curve. I really think it's pen manipulation and they're twisting their pen a lot. But with metal pens, it's a little bit more difficult. Come over here. And then we kind of make an S shape. About like that. Come over here. And come up. Kind of make an S. And then that's the G. I hope that was a little bit, that was fully visible. I didn't realize I was out of the frame on that.
Could you do that again?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. In fact, I'll do it at the beginning up here. S shape.
Got it. Thank you. That helped.
You're welcome. And this one's a little shorter than it should be. It really should have been extended out and then brought in. But the format's the same idea.
And that the really thin part at the bottom left corner, that's done with the nib corner or like to make it so thin?
That or you just go ahead and turn it to a 30-degree angle and do it.
Ah, okay. Got it. Got it.
You know,
Okay, so
nib corners are great and everything, but if you use them too much, you will wear down and then your strokes will not be as sharp and clean. So if you can just twist your pen and get the same thing, I recommend doing that. It wears out your pens, especially your quill pens, a lot less quickly.
I think I briefly mentioned it before my vacation.
Got it. Thanks.
You're welcome. And somehow I'm still managing to do that. All right. So I skipped to G and I realized H needs to be done. So H shares the same spine as the D. Beak serif, straight down, create a foot toward the beginning of the line. There we go. And I have found no way to do this other than to do it in at least 3 strokes. So I come up here and I put it into what would be the middle of the arc of the H, right at the waistline, and I bring a little curve down and I get it in there. I go back up to that spot and I bring it straight down, and I make a foot to the end of the line. And that's my H. Some people say this should be taller. Some people say it should be shorter. Well, we don't want it to look like an N, so don't make it too much shorter. Again, I think that there is, depends on what manuscript you're looking at. I think it depends a little bit on the scribe. Yeah, I was just checking my notes and I don't have anything on how, ascenders, because there's so much about the script that is not agreed upon. And so for me, that's my typical H. Beak serif at the top. Why are you pulling to the right? Make a foot to the front of the line, first half of the arc, second half of the arc, foot pointing to the end of the line. I'm doing something that's making me pull slightly to the right, and I don't know what it is. And my last H. So the simple, no, so you notice how this one didn't quite get in there? That happens. You don't want that. You do want it to stay inside. Oh, that's what it was. I pulled to the right. Never mind. All right, so I. It's one of the simplest letters in most scripts, including this one. It beak serif at the waistline, bring it down, foot going to the back. There are people who want to see that this has a foot on both sides. Okay, I'm not going to tell you no. I just prefer the single one pointing to the back. A J, which really does not exist in this script, I would pull here and bring over. L is essentially an unfinished B, but you can do things with it. And you can leave it like that, or you can come up like that and make it have some extension there. This is far more common than just leaving that there. I've seen very few manuscripts where they just bring it down and then leave it. There's almost always this extra extension. And so beak serif, bring it back to the beginning of the line, nice curve, lift your pen, and make the curve finish off. M is by far the most complicated, or at least the most pen strokes. N has 2 forms, but we're going to work with M. Waistline, beak serif to the front, come down a foot to the front, start at the middle of the arc, bring this down. You're going to make a 2-sided foot here. So to the front, to the back, to the front, level it out. Come back up to the middle of the arc, Bring it back up, come down, foot to the back. It is by far the most most stroke intensive letter in this script. Beak serif to the front, foot to the front, left half of the arc, right half of the arc, double-sided foot, arc, halfway, arc all the way down, foot to the back. It's a pretty letter. It's just a pain, that's all. And honestly, none of it's complicated, so I really can't say it's a pain. It's just stroke intensive. So the N has two different ends. There is the N that is essentially half of an M. I won't spend too much time with it. It is what people refer to as the boring N. Has a foot that goes to the front, half that arc. And this foot, really, I just do it to the front. There are people that, again, want it to be both sides. I'm not among them. This N has a descender. Get that level for you. So start at the waistline, bring it down. Now I like to go at least 1.5, if not 2 for this descender, and then a foot going to the back. And then about 2/3 of the way down is where I put it, but never go above half. Pull a line across like it's an H, but do it at a diagonal. Do not go straight, do it a diagonal. Don't do it at more than 30 degrees. So don't that. And then this one goes to the baseline and stops and creates a foot. And that is what a lot of people think of as the classic Insular Majuscule N. Now, you don't have to go that far down. You can just go here. You can choose to draw the other column and then draw across. So in some ways, you can think of this as an F or a K, the start of it, followed by an I, and then connect the two. And this is how I prefer to draw my ends for insular. That said, the other end is perfectly valid and perfectly usable, and you should feel free to use whichever one is going to fit best where you are writing it. There is no rule on switching back and forth that I know of. We're not going to get through all of the letters today, but I definitely wanted to hit up O is simple. I definitely want to hit P. P is a weird one for us. We actually start in the middle of the two lines between our baseline and our waistline, and we put in a beak serif. We pull it down as a descender. Your descenders pretty much should, on average, be the same length. And then we're going to make a big O, sort of. So start up here, bring it down, and land in that. We're gonna, and make sure your pen is flat when you do it. There we go. Bring this down and about there. The P doesn't close. So bring this up here, don't close it. And that is an uncial P. Uncial, wow. Insular Majuscule P. Have I been saying uncial this whole time?
Just a couple times.
Oh, sorry. Thanks for letting me know. Supposed to have been Insular Majuscule.
We knew what you meant.
Thanks. Halfway, create your foot. Bring it down and match it up. Pull it around. Touch. Pick up your pen. Now this P is unlike any other P. And because the lines are getting apart, I'm making it too big. That's what I get for being quick. Right. So I have covered pretty much A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N. Yeah, I've covered A through P. I figure in 2 weeks I will cover R through Z. Are there any, and go ahead and feel free to go ahead of it. Are there any questions at this point or concerns or other things? I know questions were asked in already, but feel free to do more. All right, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording.